Welcome, everybody. My name is Mario Loria. This is a virtual Orchestructure, the first, and I'm sure there will be many more. Welcome to our live stream of today's event. And I'm talking like it's all serious, but we are totally drinking beer. We are still keeping swole, and we are going to enjoy ourselves for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. You guys know the cast of characters that helped me put this on, George, Bob, and Jeff. They are here once again, and I spent all day making this Zoom background, and George helped a lot, and this was my day. I didn't do much work today. I was so excited for this. So we're going to deep dive K3s today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share this with anyone that you want. It's public and open, and feel free to troll with us a little bit and tell Jeff he's doing everything wrong in the Orchestructure Slack channel. That is also part of the video. So everyone can see the discussion, the great discussion that we're going to have. So without further ado, I introduce Jeff and the team. Let's get to it.
All right. So I purposefully have done as little prep for this as possible. K3s is not even installed on my machine. I'm going to have to go through from scratch and install it. The only thing I did do, just to save a little bit of time that doesn't matter, is I downloaded the Kubernetes guest book example app, just so we could have something to, install into this thing that we're going to get going. All right, so let me share my screen and we'll get to it. All right, so a little bit of background. Kubernetes is kind of a fat app of sorts. I shouldn't call it an app, but let's just, for the sake of that, it is difficult to implement, especially as a developer, when you just want to build an app and then deploy it locally. There have been different solutions out there that have tried to address this. Minikube was one, and that was kind of the forerunner. Minikube, however, spun up a VM. So it was still kind of taking a large chunk of your machine and then just blocking it off for that. Then there was Kind, and Kind is my preferred method of spinning up a local Kubernetes cluster. It is literally Kubernetes in Docker. It's arguably a little bit fatter in size to K3s, but there are very specific reasons for that. And then there's K3s. So let's get to it. Is everyone ready? All right.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you. So one thing that I do want to note, I have barely used K3s, so you're definitely going to be learning along with me. But what I have done is I have used K3d. K3d is literally K3s, but in a Docker container. So hey, K3s will actually install a bunch of stuff on the host, whereas K3d will make it all into a single container. For the sake of this, I'm going to do both because why not? So let's go ahead and YOLO this. Actually, I do want to see what this script has, and I will. Okay, so right off the bat, apparently K3s uses traffic for ingress. Like I said, I know near nothing about K3s. That's news to me. Skip download, symlink, skip enable.
What does the 3 mean in K3s?
It is a play off of K8s, which is the short name for Kubernetes. It's K3s. K3s is 5 less letters. That's literally it. It was just a play on the fact that K3s is much slimmer. And actually, let's talk about that really quick. There are some things that I do know about K3s. One thing is it does not necessarily use etc.d as a backing store for Kubernetes. It can use SQLite and it can use MySQL. That can pose some problems and challenges, but they are being addressed as far as I know. The big thing that was lacking up until recently was the concept, the Kubernetes concept of watches in K3s. A watch, for those that aren't aware, is more of an etc.d kind of function. Long story short, you pipe in a key and then you just constantly watch for changes in that key. It's kind of difficult to do in a database like SQLite. But that's one of the many ways that they attempted to make K3s more lightweight and more kind of portable. So that's another reason why K3s is small. One of the other things that K3s differs from upstream Kubernetes is upstream Kubernetes has this concept of alpha, beta, and GA features. K3s looks at alpha features and kicks them away. They just go away. We don't care. We only care about beta features and up. So that's another distinction between Kind and K3s. Kind will actually have all of those alpha features enabled because Kind was purpose built to handle Kubernetes CI, whereas K3s was more driven around the developer experience.
Jeff, do we know if they have the same deprecation policy as upstream K3s? Like,
Off the top of my head, I don't know for sure.
all right, I was just curious.
What I do know is K3s will attempt to mirror the Kubernetes API as much as possible. So I know I have seen on Twitter a couple rants from Darren about API changes in Kubernetes and new versions. So I imagine they are trying to stay as close to API compatible as possible. And actually, never mind, they have to be Kubernetes. Uh-oh, I am definitely going to have to close that down. Un momento.
Jeff, we spent like a half an hour preparing what's going on right now.
I forgot to mute Slack notifications in several of my workspaces, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now.
Blame Beaver.
And how many workspaces would you say you are part of?
Do yourself a favor. Just quit out of
actually, I need to stay in Slack just so I can pay
see
attention
messages.
to some of the questions. Yeah.
We'll feed you everything. Don't worry.
I can read them for you as well. And also,
Too late. Too late.
You're on call, aren't you?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Thankfully, I don't have a call. I'm lucky. Where was I though? Oh, so I know for a fact actually that they follow the same deprecation policy because of this right here. Certified Kubernetes Distribution. They have to adhere to our standard Kubernetes APIs and everything in order for it to stay as a certified Kubernetes distribution. That's all handled through the CNCF. They have to run Sonobuoy. I don't know if it's still called Sonobuoy, but they have to run essentially conformance tests to verify that, hey, we are conformant. Alpha features are never really a conformance thing, so they can just get rid of them. Whew. All right, I talked a lot. Let's actually do something. Yep, so let's go back to yellowing the script and then see how it crashes my machine. Cool. Okay, so it downloaded a new version of kubectl. I don't know if I'm happy about that or not. It also grabbed cryctl, which is CRI, container runtime. CTR, I think that's the CRI like container thing. Bob, I am looking at your window so you can confirm or deny. Yes, all right, thank you, Bob. Uninstall script, good, because I probably won't keep this around. And it's running in systemd. Cool, so K3s has started. Presumably I have a K3s thing, I did not before. Also, it looks like the latest version lags behind about one version, but I also think that it lags more or less depending on the API changes that occur between minor versions of Kubernetes. Raise your hand if you're Chromecasting this. Thank you, Mario. All right, so let's just follow the directions here. So check for a ready one node takes maybe 30 seconds. Hopefully I've, wasted enough time yammering for 30 seconds. All right, we're done. We're done. We've already encountered our first error. So let's see, unable to read, etc. Answer K3s, K3s YAML. Please start server with write kubeconfig mode to modify kubeconfig permissions. For detailed installation, let's refer to these docs.
I guess you're past the lightweight installation. This is now the intense detailed installation where you actually have to set up the kubeconfig manually.
I really, really hope not.
Though this was just supposed to work.
I thought it was too. To be fair, Worst case scenario, I'll just use K3D because I know that works. Wait, did I miss a command? There's actually a chance I totally missed it. I installed it. K3s kubectl get nodes.
Yeah,
Nope.
not clear if you need a sudo here or not, because that's a
K3s
it's unable
server.
to read
Let's
the
just
file.
play with it.
Hmm.
K3s server must run as root unless disable agent is specified. So what if? Oh, derp.
Hmm.
This might be my bad, actually. I might have something already listening on 6443.
You have another instance someplace.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have kind?
I
running or
did not
something,
have
or-
K3s installed here at all.
Okay.
Yeah, 6443 is a fairly unique port, but
What? I don't have netstat installed in this box. I mean, it's a pretty vanilla instance of Ubuntu.
Try SS, just SS, like the Chevrolet SS. Yeah, that's kind of the replacement for netstat.
Huh.
Oh, today I learned.
Thank you for that. Yeah,
I use a minus TULNP for everything that is listening.
Yeah, that's like that's that Tulpen.
That's going to.
That's how I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so something's listening. The question is it K3s?
If you run it with sudo, it should tell you the service that's doing it.
K3s server. So K3s server is up. Maybe it wasn't.
You think it's up and it just takes a bit, right?
Yeah, maybe it is entirely possible that I didn't wait long enough. Unable to read. Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe we have to modify the systemd thing to use this right kubeconfig mode. So it's wait.
Were you supposed to run the server with sudo or not?
Well, the server's already running. Theoretically, the server was running with this.
Takes maybe 30 seconds.
And it did, and hold on, it did ask for me to sudo while I was installing initially.
Okay.
I feel like I can feel Bob smirking right now. I was right. All right, so let's just follow the logs. Please start server with right kubeconfig mode to modify kubeconfig permissions. How do we do that? Etc. Systemd.
Do you want us Googling in the background to help, or are you?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I have no idea where it may have installed.
Brandon mentions that it worked just fine for him with Docker Compose instead.
Docker Compose?
I'm just relaying what was typed in chat.
Docker. Do you mean what you said? Because K3s and Docker Compose are different. I know. I saw his message. All right. So cat etc. Systemd. System K3s service. All right.
Yeah, it says basically launch the server with that flag. So I think you just stop the server and run it by hand.
Yeah, but that is kind of poor UX. I want to actually like get this working without that. So, well,
yeah.
So vim etc. Systemd system K3s dot service, and then we want to have it with that. I see some stuff happening in chat, by the way.
Yeah, that's just me. It looks like people are sudo chmodding 644 Etsy Rancher K3s.yaml.
Whoop.
And the last comment is that you need, so that file that it's complaining about, chmod at
Yeah.
644,
Sudo mod 644,
Is what
etc.
this cat
rancher,
says.
K3s, K3s.yaml. All right. So systemctl, daemon reload.
See, I use a Mac now, so I really miss having to have fun with systemctl. So this is a blast from the past.
Ugh.
Oh, officially branded lightweight Kubernetes. Interesting.
Scroll up because it lists.
Flag needs argument. It's the same thing it's complaining about. It's you needed to pass that flag to it on startup.
I thought I did.
I don't know why
Unless...
it doesn't do that by default though, right? Try stopping and starting the service. Right, because it was trying to read that file and it didn't before you.
Sure. And it's going to be the same error.
Do we want to look at the systemd unit it installed?
So hold up. I edited this file to have that flag. Maybe by chmodding that file, I no longer need to do that.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to follow some of the recommendations in this GitHub issue. You have to restart the service if you're trying to change the permit via an environment variable or command line option. It rewrites the file and sets permissions to startup.
And you thought this wouldn't, like, we breeze through this too quickly.
That is very true. I'm guilty of that.
17 minutes down.
Oh, look at this. Look at this comment. This is also an interesting one here. Note that if you want to allow access, you can edit the k3s.service.m file, not the service file, the service.m file in etcd systemd system to contain this environment variable mentioned above.
All right, so hold up. Unable to read etc. rancher K3s K3s YAML. Write kubeconfig mode to modify the kubeconfig permissions. Error loading etc. rancher K3s K3s YAML permission denied. But when we start the server with write kubeconfig mode, fails. So the simplest and least recommended option, as I again feel Bob smirking.
Switch to Arch Linux or fresh install.
Dude. So I that's the same thing a dude recommended in the thing. He goes, I just updated the permission on the file and it seemed to do the trick, and he's modded it with a sudo. Yeah.
Just 777 it. I mean,
done.
If
so
you read, if you read the issue, there's actually, let's just cat this file for me real quick. The service file .env.
Wait. Which?
Not the YAML file, the systemd service file.
Oh, cat etc. systemd systemctl or no system k3s service.
Yep. Now do .env at the end of that. .service.env. No.
Wait.
Hit up
what?
key. There you go.
Yeah.
Dot. Does that exist? Yeah. Cat that file for me. Yeah, so in here, you could set a variable that says K3s kubeconfig mode equals 644, and then that should work. That seems like a more, that seems like the proper solution to me, other than Chmod 7070 in the world. I think.
You know what? Let's try that because that does seem a bit cleaner. So
yeah.
chmod.
So I posted the link to the issue in the Slack, and that has a bunch of background information that.
Etc. rancher K3s K3s.yaml. Boom, and then I need to copy pasta that out of Slack. So sudo vim etc. systemd system K3s.
Yeah, because something Darren mentions in this issue is like, I think the best approach would be to create a K3s group and prompt the user to run user mod like a Docker installation does. That way it's done now to avoid the issue where people install and then can't access Kubernetes because they are root. In that situation, kubectl gives a useless error saying it can't connect to port 8080.
I just want to point something out. Sudo vim etc systemd system K3s service.env, right? You see that?
Yeah.
Read only.
Oh, interesting.
Copy. Paste. All right. It's there.
Okay,
so hey.
restart it. Let's see what happens.
And yes, that is absolutely cheating, Brandon. And yes, we were going to just run it as root, but hey.
Yeah.
All right, so system CTL status K3s appears to be running. K3s kubectl get nodes.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
All right, so that was a little difficult and definitely off the rails.
Oh, about 20 minutes. So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
if you get that error and just stick it into Google, it took me right to that GitHub issue. So it's Rancher 389. Yep.
Did you? Okay, yeah, you did link it.
Excellent. Yeah, I linked it all up in the chat. So yeah.
All right, so the real question is, do I have to continue to use K3s kubectl in order to do stuff with this? Kubectl get nodes. Apparently I do. K3s kubectl get nodes. All right. Is what a mount. So let's actually try and do something with this. So in K3s demo, I need to blow that up significantly.
There you go.
In this K3s demo, I grabbed the Kubernetes guestbook example just so we could install some sort of a workload on here. It's pretty straightforward. It's using Redis master, Redis slave. The front end's PHP deployments and service. Hey, it should be pretty easy, one would hope. K3s kubectl apply f guestbook.
So this is a bare install, so you don't even have the images on your machine, right?
I have nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I have nothing pre-baked. We were doing it live.
Right, yeah.
And that was the whole plan. Come learn with us and watch how dumb we actually are. So I imagine right now it's just downloading a whole bunch of images.
Yep.
Oh, the back to the system, the env file. No, that was just us. So my guess is that it will try and write a kube config somewhere with specific permissions, and it was trying to read the config file for K3s, and the permissions were weird or wrong for some reason. I have no idea. But that env file tells K3s when it starts to change the file permissions on whatever it's doing.
Right.
So, okay. So, things are running. Now let's actually see if we can get to them. Did it create a service? Okay, it created a node port service. I'm curious. Is it this easy? Metal Gear?
Really?
Really?
Interesting.
Okay, so all I did here, by the way, I realize I'm doing things and not talking. So I wanted to see if the guestbook example app created a bunch of services, and it did. One of them was front end, and it happens to be a node port, which is interesting. So I then went to see what the node, actually, hold up.
Go to port. Let's see.
Yeah. Hold on. I wanted to see what the IP of our K3s node came up as, and it came up as 1.45, which I believe is actually my local machine. So it's actually using host networking.
Interesting. Yeah, probably the easiest, lowest friction path to just making things work. IP adder show.
Yep.
Actually, you can
1.45.
still install ifconfig.
Yeah, I know. So that was good to know. So K3s comes up with host networking. It is going to expose everything on your computer. That makes sense. That's pretty simple and pretty easy.
Yeah, for development, that feels like
I
the right
like that
thing to
UX
do.
a lot.
Yeah.
If it's just a little like windowed thing, it's no big deal.
Absolutely.
Shrug.
So let's
Humor me, refresh here. I'm just wondering if it wasn't ready.
Yeah, I'm refreshing. I'm
Okay.
actually wondering if I have the wrong thing. Wow. The wrong URL for it. So like
Oh, as in, are you hitting the right?
Yeah, is it actually like
Supposed
do you
to
hit
be
the
your
root
node port. Yeah,
end? Oh, that looks bad when I zoom in. Expose the guestbook front end, creating front end services. There's a node port. Okay, so theoretically, we should be able to just hit that front end URL.
I saw a port in there. Did you scroll by it? Did you see that port? Right there,
Yeah.
31323.
Okay, so hold up. Maybe I'm just being dumb and going too fast. K3s, kubectl, get svc. Come on. I was going too fast.
There you go.
Hey-o.
Yeah. We DevOps.
All right. We DevOpsin. We DevOps. So let's do this. Oh my gosh, it works. If I refresh, that stays. We have ourselves a Kubernetes cluster using K3s.
You know what? Despite we're at 27 minutes in when we start, compared to what it used to take to get a simple service up and running, even with all of these mistakes, which we could have read the docs maybe a little bit more, save a few minutes, to have a full service up and working in 27 minutes.
I mean, I wouldn't even be halfway to the data center yet to rack the server. I mean, so this is pretty remarkable. Can you make this available on the public internet, please, so I can add to the guestbook? Thanks. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Well, you see, soon. Soon.
That was first the first implementation of Honk.
Yeah. This just for a little bit of background, the first implementation of Honk CTL was literally me exposing kind running on my laptop for a night, and all that meant. I can't wait to do the next Honk challenge. Okay. So
real quick before you move on, I know in a lot of places people say, hey, don't connect your laptop to the internet, obviously. But are there any security considerations as far as like, is this strictly like kind where it's like laptops only, trust us, or are there any other use cases outside of that? Because in my kind of home lab environment, I could see myself just setting this up on a machine and being like,
no. That was actually the next thing I was kind of talk about is the use cases. So I mean, though we're just going to blame my environment for the potential problems. I have a feeling a lot of other people that spin up K3s are not going to run into that. But even if they do, they Google it, they'll find the issue. Boom.
Yeah.
It's really simple now to spin up a local Kubernetes cluster for development, but that isn't just what K3s was developed to do. I mean, right on their website, which I will click over to once I'm done yammering, they talk about the fact that it is meant to be a lightweight Kubernetes distribution. They are really targeting things like IoT. They want you to run K3s on your Raspberry Pis, and like that's their market. They are definitely going for a lot more. than just that. But if you really look at it, that's really the focus in what most use cases are with K3s.
Okay, so if you were setting this up on a Pi or something, you would follow these same instructions. I just want to make sure, is the local laptop dev environment, how similar is that to how they want you to use it on a device? Let me just generalize the question that way, I guess.
Right. So the UX would be a little bit different. If for example you're spinning it up on your computer or on your laptop, you're going to be doing what I just did.
Mm-hmm.
If you are wanting to, say, bootstrap 3 or 4 Raspberry Pis into a cluster,
Right.
there is a separate utility called K3 aka Ketchup. And the whole point of Ketchup is if you already have an OS on your Pis, right?
Right.
And you can SSH to your Pis, this will bootstrap everything for you from scratch.
Okay.
So there is a very simple way of doing it, or
it really is
showing it.
ketchup.
It really is meant to be.
I thought
Yes,
you made
it is
that
Ketchup.
up. Okay, cool.
No, I'm not that funny. But like there's a config. In the config, you lay out the SSH key,
Sure.
or SSH keys for the host, the IPs of the host, and then you just Ketchup and it goes. It does its thing. It's really
Gotcha.
awesome. This was created by Alex Ellis. It's not a Rancher thing. It is very much an Alex Ellis project. That may or may not matter to some people. It's just more I want to shout out that Alex did this on his own, and it is not under the Rancher umbrella. Whereas K3s, K3D, those are all Rancher projects.
Mm-hmm. And Alex is kind of famous for those little Raspberry Pi clusters on your desk kind of thing, so it makes sense that he would write a tool like this. Dope. Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome. So just to expand on this, I was looking at Ketchup to run my home lab. I ultimately did not use that, but I didn't use that because to me the difference between using Ketchup and then using kubeatom init and then the kubeatom joins, it was so small. I was just like, nah, I'll just run regular Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like I'm okay with that extra step. If someone literally wants a Kubernetes cluster up right now, they don't want to have to deal with SSHing in and joining every individual node. Ketchup's amazing.
Mm. Now, how far does it get you? Do you get a load balancer and all that good stuff, ingress, or
so
how much setup after this?
That is a fantastic question. I don't 100% know the answer. I can tell you what I do know. K3s has what was it? Contour, or what was the ingress? It has an ingress provider there. Traffic.
Yeah,
it uses
right.
traffic.
Yep.
But it does not have a load balancer type. You are going to have to spin up Metal LB or something to handle that yourself.
Okay.
But the ingress objects, yes, it will handle that with traffic.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Does it matter if it's spinning stuff up on the host port? If it's a single node cluster?
It depends on what the host port is spinning up. I also don't know, for example, what like IP range it may or may not try to spin stuff up under. If you want, I can try and figure that out.
Yeah, show us more. Do another. Let's see what addresses it doled out.
Well, Bob, do you know off the top of your head what or port range Kubernetes will try and consume with node port? Isn't it everything above 10,000?
It's in the 30s, so like you can sort of see there.
Yeah, it's above 35,000, I believe.
Well, that's not true because we're on 30,000 right now.
Oh wow, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's above 30,000, but like it stops somewhere too. Yeah, I'm having a day.
It's all right, dude.
Rex is also mentioning that it's pretty easy to build a cluster even without Ketchup. So he builds out K3s clusters on Nux for edge deployments, for example.
Yeah, I mean, again, that type of use case is exactly what K3s is meant for.
Right.
Lightweight nodes, Raspberry Pis, things on the edge, and then your laptop. Things that don't need that bleeding edge version of Kubernetes. So yeah. What else? What else did I want to cover? Hold on.
Can you grow something just so we see it? Add another.
Grow it?
Yeah,
You
add
mean
another slave or
scale?
something. Yeah, just to see what it's
Oh,
like. Just one.
Plant
I
some
just want to see
seeds.
it work. You know.
Water them seeds.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. K3s, kubectl, scale. Oh wait, is it a deployment? I think it's a deployment.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is like.
Yeah.
That's one of
You
the
gotta
nice
keep me
advantages
honest.
of having this like on your laptop, right? It's like I can practice all this kind of stuff without spending money in the cloud. I can just do it, right?
It should work just because it's
Yeah.
you know.
But I
Right,
mean,
it's just gonna spawn
there's
more
still
containers, but-
there. Boom! It scaled.
yeah.
You scaled. I would have been surprised and a little shocked if that didn't work.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna work. I just think the reason I wanted you to show it is like that is the kind of, for me, that's kind of the value of running this thing on your laptop, right? You can pretend that you have a cluster and you're doing stuff.
Okay. So
like you would in real life.
This is something I want to think about really quick. So I have Docker running right now. It's not using Docker. It's using
Containerd.
Cry. Yeah. So it's using Containerd. So that is something to keep in mind.
Huh.
So do Docker PSA and then like just to show.
Yeah, I just did Docker PS, but
Yep.
like
That's empty.
nothing is running under Docker. K3s, cryctl. This is something that kind of bothers me. If it's going to, I understand why it has everything prefaced with K3s. It's so it can like
Right.
ensure that everything that like it ships with everything you need.
Yeah.
Right. So one additional thing that might be nice is maybe a way to do like auto completing or aliasing, or a way to alias a bunch of these commands, because it's kind of annoying.
I think there's actually a fake sort of shell that sort of like IRB or something you can drop into for it.
Interesting. Okay. So if we do that, that should come up with a whole lot of stuff, or it'll fail.
You do know about sudo bang bang, right, Jeff? While we're today out learning.
No.
Okay.
What is sudo bang bang?
Sudo bang bang will run whatever your last command was with sudo, so you don't have to home and type sudo space. Just sudo bang bang right after your mistake. So next time.
You can also call any previous command running history and then find the number and then just bang 436 and it'll run that command again.
I know the history thing. And that is a TIL. Thank you, George. But honestly, I love typing on this new keyboard so much. I'm probably going to keep doing it for a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's for the audience. Sudo bang bang, save your life.
Yeah. So everything is running in Containerd and not in Docker. That is useful to know if you are like trying to get into a container or something and you're not going to exec for some reason. Just keep that in mind. It is still consuming resources. You just don't see them with Docker. Again, small detail, but hey.
Do they show up in Machine Cuddle? Just curious.
I don't have that installed.
You do. It's a systemd thing, but whatever. That's a.
Are you sure about that?
CTL enter. Huh. Weird. I have on mine. All right. Whatever.
I'm on 1804. What are you on?
2004.
I need to get on that.
Who knows?
I need to get on that train.
Who knows?
Okay, so Crocodile, we've shown that. So there were, I'll just straight up say there were a few points that I wanted to hit. I wanted to talk about the ease of install. I wanted to show the ability for us to like spin up, and that's what I wanted to look into. How easy is it for us to build an image and then run the image that we've spun up locally? That to me is like one of the most common use cases. I certainly need that. So how do we do that with K3s? I have no idea. Let's Google that. K3s. Oh my gosh, can I type? K3s, import images. Okay, when I see the first thing is a feature request, I know that I am in for a treat. So in K3D, they were talking about importing images, which would kind of make sense because it's spinning up everything in K3s. Yeah.
Is it just me, or does K3D feel like it would be a cleaner way to do this, so you don't have stuff all installed on your machine and stuff?
I personally want to run literally everything in a container.
Mhm.
That's just me. Again, when I have touched this, like I have not touched K3s itself. All I've ever used is K3D, and even that's in a limited capacity that we can talk about later.
Okay.
But yes, I would personally use K3D over K3s because I'm also spinning up multiple clusters, and I have installed a cluster on my machine.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like just not?
This looks more like a design document than a bug. Hold
Yeah,
on.
but this is also like 9 months away. That's a little concerning. Is there a way for us to load an image? K3s, this is not at all what I was.
So you should technically be able to do it with CRI. Like you essentially like pipe it to it.
Yeah, look at this. So this is how you would have to do that. That's kind of awful, in my
Save
opinion.
it as a tarball and then import it into.
Well, that's also from September last year. Let's just.
I mean,
That's
I kind of feel like that's still the way.
yeah.
Hold on. On 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the way.
This is the way.
I missed it.
Nice.
I'm not sure this is the way. I always like.
I will happily look
at other bugs. Let's get a second opinion because it's always like the first issue.
I'm also pretty sure like that's how Kind does it under the hood too.
Okay.
That is actually how Kind does that under the hood. Is that though? I thought he changed that recently.
That's very interesting.
I thought it was like shortcutted, but like
I thought it was shortcutted as well.
I think it was still doing that under the hood.
Loading an image into your cluster, build Kind load.
Yeah. I think Kind load essentially does that.
Is there a K3s load? Just curious. If it had it, that's what I would name it.
Server, agent, kubectl, cryctl, container, and check config. Otherwise, yeah, that having a K3s load would be wonderful.
I wonder if it just hasn't been like enough of a problem that people have really wanted.
Yeah, or do a help. Like, maybe it's buried in there for something, or maybe it's under one of the other bigger commands and stuff.
I mean,
oh, derp. Well, could you do K3s server help? Does that work?
There you go.
Sorry, go ahead, Mario.
I was gonna say we have a quick question from Rex about is K3s still only Linux?
I believe so. It is only Linux.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I just haven't seen anyone use K3s on Windows. All right. So I have not really worked with cryctl, so I'm just seeing if
images. There's a pull. Yeah. There's no push.
There will be slight syntax differences. Just don't. My suggestion is don't dig into this right now.
All right. So that's one thing that is a little different and a little kind of annoying. But I will also say that having used Kind, Minikube, and K3s, the loading of images is kind of painful in all of them. Because like in Kind, you still have to build an image locally and then import it, and that takes a little bit of time. In Minikube, I had a helper script that would SSH into the Minikube VM and build the image in the Minikube VM.
But you can also just Docker do the Minikube env, which will set it all for you anyway.
But the point is, there is still always this little bit of pain to get the image into the cluster, the local cluster.
I have a question. Has anyone seen any VS Code plugins that integrate with K3s, Kind, Minikube, and kind of like make this something that's taken care of for you? So when you are pushing new code and building a new image for your application, it's just kind of done for you?
There's several things that do that sort of thing, but it's with generic Kubernetes. It's not specifically with like Kind or K3s.
Right. So
yeah.
Hold on. What, George, tell me if I am wrong or right based on your Googling. All of those plugins do not deal with importing an image into a local cluster.
Okay.
All those all those integrations have to do with interacting with the Kube API server and then performing actions in the cluster. So, maybe we've just stumbled on a mildly, open area for improvement. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So while George is Googling and validating or proving me right or wrong. So ease of install, having dealt with Minikube, Kind, and this, I feel like they're all really on par, even with the trouble that we had. I will kind of edge out Kind because at this point, most people have Docker running already. And so that's really the only dependency. If you have Docker and you have Go, you can literally run go get kind and it works. Whereas K3s, if K3s would probably edge out kind because you need less stuff to run it, but we ran into the slight issues here. And Minikube just requires a bunch of dependencies like VirtualBox, and that also changes depending on which OS you're running on, so it's kind of more complex. Bob, can you do me a favor and pack Gertie for me? Thank you.
Yeah, Rex also mentions you could run a Docker registry in your cluster. I was about to say, could you just build your containers and push them to your local on disk or on network Herber or whatever you have,
so yes,
skip that whole pane entirely in exchange for different kinds of pane, right?
Yeah. So to me, that isn't alleviating the problem. It's just shifting it to a different place.
Sure.
One thing that I will say that I do like that OpenShift does. This is not me plugging Red Hat. Do not laugh. But one of the big things that OpenShift does do is they bake in an image registry, because this is one of the big pain points of developers. Mm-hmm. They don't want to have to deal with an image registry.
Yeah.
So yeah, ease of install. What else were you gonna say, George?
There's so many Kubernetes VS Code I can't give you a recent answer in any kind of useful form.
Could you do me a favor and look up specifically K3s? See if there's a K3s.
I could not find that. I could find one for Kind, and I found a generic. I found a few Kubernetes ones. One by Microsoft, one by Ivan.
Could you link the Kind one?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of a divergent thing, but I just don't want to. I want to look at that.
Yeah. The Microsoft one's the main one.
Yeah. So ability to spin up local code. If the image is already out in some sort of public area, like if you're doing home labby stuff, if you're building your own images for your own code, the code isn't sensitive, and you're just pushing YOLO pushing it up to your own Docker hub.
Right.
This works great. I do that. That's a quick and dirty way to do it. But if you were trying to keep it all within the the firewall, if you're trying to keep it all locally, you're going to have problems. And in terms of ease of use, realistically, Minikube Minikube is best with this because you can do that Docker env. Next would be Kind, because Kind does have that shortcut to import images. And then last is K3s, because it seems like there's kind of a gap here. Resource usage. I wanted to really talk about that, but I think we kind of already have. The whole point of K3s is it's meant to be lightweight, and that's their main focus. So, I mean,
you can actually use Docker instead of Containerd.
Oh, with K3s?
Yeah, yep. Antonio but I was going to say that for people who aren't listening on video. Antonio has a link here to the docs on rancher.com/docs K3s.
Hold on.
Using Docker as your container runtime as opposed to CRI.
Son of a gun.
It's really -- Docker. You just run the
agent
with -- Docker. Yeah.
There you go. You learned something new.
Oh well. Secrets encryption config. There's an experimental flag in there as well. I just thought that was it. It's literally -- Docker.
Okay, so let's talk this out really quick. K3s is meant to be an edge IoT lightweight based Kubernetes cluster. Mm-hmm. It's just a side benefit that we can spin it up locally and run Kubernetes stuff locally. Yeah. So maybe it does make sense for it to default to Containerd rather than use Docker. And then it's just our ignorance. But that being said, I feel like up front,
it's not a bad default, I don't think.
No. That's what I'm saying. Container D is not a bad default, like at all. It makes sense for their use case.
Yeah.
But with so many people looking for a lightweight way to install Kubernetes cluster for local development, having something other than, how far down is this? Advanced options and configuration.
You're saying just switch to Docker as the default?
No, I'm not. I'm saying on this right here, like have something right here for local development, and then I click that, and it's like, oh, by the way, set -- Docker.
Right.
Because like right now, that being said, K3s edges out Minikube in kind. Because if it's using my native Docker instance, then I can build images. They are immediately accessible to the K3s node, and then boom.
Yeah.
You know.
Plus, there's also the principle of least surprise, right? Like if if you would have had me do this presentation, I'd do Docker ps-a, and I don't see containers, I would have been flipping out for a little bit, and then until someone would have reminded me, you know what I mean? I was like, well, yeah, duh. But I wouldn't have thought. I would have assumed Docker ps-a would have worked. I mean, it's one of those things that's like Docker's kind of the de facto standard, so I guess people are expecting it. That's kind of on us, right? Like we should know better.
That's a good point, though. Like they're not geared. It's not geared for this precisely, right? But
right, yeah.
The other thing of note, though, is kind under the hood is actually using Container D in Docker. It's not Docker in Docker. It's Container D in Docker.
Oh.
Right.
Honestly, Container D is what a lot of people are using in production these days anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
So you should, if you're not familiar with it, you should get familiar with it.
Yeah. It's fairly simple and kind of familiar, but at the same time, it does have certain differences.
It's just a little bit different for everything.
Yeah. Plus, it's nice that your laptop has the option, so it's the same as whatever you're running in prod, right? So like, I don't want to run Docker on my laptop and then Cryo on my server. You know what I mean? I just want them to match.
Does this have Podman support?
Does it? I'm actually curious if it does.
I mean, the thing is, if you alias Podman to Docker, it'll work.
Sure.
that's how kind works with Podman.
Also, Rex pointed out that the generic Kubernetes VS Code plugin should work with it because it's a Kubernetes, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. But I was more curious. Again, we were talking about specifically the idea of deploying an image.
Loading.
Sure.
But I mean, especially now with this revelation of -- Docker, let's go. So resource usage.
Just a general reminder, you are at 50 minutes.
Yeah, actually.
I'm gonna time box you to 8 more minutes.
That's fine. So I mean, I'm just looking at this, and I see the K3s server right here.
Yeah. It's like surprise. Electron takes way more than your Kubernetes cluster.
And zooms right at the top. But I mean, my point was K3s is not really consuming that much. The main reason for it not consuming that much is it isn't trying to run etc. D. Everything is really bundled into a single binary. It like the resource usage. The resource usage of K3s is extremely lightweight. Big thing. I kind of already talked about the differences upstream, but it kind of bears repeating. There are no alpha features. It is not using etc. D under the hood, and it is its own flavor of Kubernetes. Like there is K3s and there is Kubernetes. They are different. It's just this is a conformant distribution of compatible APIs.
Right.
In short, I actually this has been eye-opening for me. I actually could see myself using K3s in certain situations. Before I was kind of a diehard kind user, but especially knowing that I can just point K3s at Docker locally, that's kind of sweet. But at the same time, it does involve installing a completely separate thing, and it's always running, or I would have to turn it off. And I have a feeling if I, then went, okay, let's use K3D. Okay, so that's running all the K3s components in Docker. I'm still going to have that issue of importing images into it, so it's kind of a moot point. But again, that's my personal preference. I like keeping as much as possible in a container. Other people do what you want. Whew. 54 minutes, and I literally had nothing planned.
You were like, I'm going to be done in 20 minutes.
I legit thought I was going to be done. My
There's
throat
always
hurts.
something. There's always
That is
something.
awesome.
Is there any other questions for any of the lovely people that are actually watching?
Yes, everyone, please shoot us your questions. You have a couple more minutes. Ask Jeff Linux
Antonio
questions.
wants to see an H-top as far as your resources go. I don't think you have an issue. It's a small install. Just do it.
Well, yeah. Fine.
Beautiful. Whoa, you have 16 cores, bro. That's so cool.
Wow. Nice machine,
You know, I have 16 cores in a box that fits in my carry-on, so get on my level.
There it is. It barely made it into the top 10. Like there, it's there. At the very bottom, it's like your
8 gigs.
Yeah.
So Rex pointed out, complete aside to all of this, when I started looking at HA masters for K3s, I saw they were doing a SQLite cluster thing. Then I realized there are multiple distributed SQLite projects. That made my brain hurt.
Oof.
The thing is, yes, it can use SQLite, but you can also configure it to use MySQL. And there's plenty of MySQL cluster projects out there. It's just then you're not as lightweight. You're having to deal with managing a SQLite cluster on top of K3s. Mileage may vary.
I mean, yeah, I think the big thing is it being configurable for whatever the use case, which is probably was built in from the start and kind of a key concept for them making this. So,
hey, do you want to?
All right.
Do you want to see Do you want to see a sneak peek of something though?
Ooh.
You have 30 seconds.
Yes, please.
He
has more time than that.
I have 30 seconds. All right, hold on.
Got a couple minutes.
I really wish I had a bag of cheeses right now. Does anyone need anything from Kroger? I'm going tomorrow.
I need to.
So this has been my thing lately. I'm open sourcing this at the end of the week or Saturday. I can't tell.
Ooh.
So it's kind/Kubernetes as a service. But the reason why I say Kubernetes in parentheses is because it doesn't just spin up kind clusters in your cluster. It spins up K3s clusters as well.
Interesting.
Clusters in your cluster? Is that what you're talking about right now? What?
Yep.
Ooh. That's actually
on top of
cool.
that, you can spin up as many clusters as you want within your cluster. You can give the pod whatever you want. You can actually provide the kind kube config.
No, please, before getting to this, remember that there isn't any security boundary with this.
Yeah.
Well,
how do you have that inline?
Well, so what do you what do you mean by that specifically?
It means that all these things in the default install, unless you're using something like Kata containers, are all essentially mounting the host as privileged.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Which means they have root.
Yes.
Right. So this is not like a cute separation technique.
No. Not yet. That's kind of one of the things I want to work on after this. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna theory craft here. Could you do something like wrap these in those AWS VMs, the little lightweighty ones?
Firecracker?
Yeah.
So,
Bob!
Yeah, Firecracker is a little bit harder to do. But with Kata, it's a little easier, but you do have to recompile a kernel to actually. Well, you have to compile a kernel to support.
Never mind.
Why don't you guys really briefly describe what honk is, and then I will close this out.
Okay. So Brandon asked, what possibly motivated you to do this? Bob and I run a periodic CTF Kubernetes puzzle, weird, crazy fun time thing, where we will let people interact with clusters, either a shared cluster or an individually spun up cluster, over some random medium. We've done Twitter, we've done IRC, we've done Slack. In a lot of these different clusters, we have to spin up the cluster itself whenever someone runs a command. And typically we need to apply a bunch of security policies and the puzzle itself before it gets spun up. We were doing this in very hacky fashion, and let's just say I turned this into more of an open source project that other people can hack on, because I also think this is something a lot of people could use.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. And with that, thank you to everyone who's tuned in. This was super fun, and we will do a virtual session probably next week, next month, May 27th. We're looking at doing open policy agent with a new friend we've made. So keep a lookout on Slack and on Meetup, and be careful when you go to Kroger, and just stay safe out there. Keep your sanity, keep healthy. Masks are mandatory.
Michigan, in Michigan,
Yes,
masks are mandatory.
yes. All right, it's 9 o'clock. Everyone go to bed. Bye.
Yep, peace.
Woo. Bye, everyone.